Gather around, friends, new and old, and welcome to the Powwow podcast. I am your host, David.
And I am your host, Philip.
Oh, welcome to another episode of Powwow podcast, where we hope to bring you a little fun and excitement about what's to come. This is the last, maybe for a couple weeks, episode that we'll be recording through Zencaster from afar. Because Philip, what you gonna do? What you gonna do, man?
Even as this episode reaches your ears, wherever you are, however you're listening, I am already, if you follow me on any social medias, you should know that I'm in Europe with you, David.
Yes.
We will be, by the time this has come out, I will have already been 5 days into England,
3 days.
Visiting England. 3 days? Okay,
Like
yeah.
3-4 days.
3 days in.
By the time you're listening, if you're listening to this, we're already in a different country, probably.
Yeah, both of
Like,
us, because
you're about.
Yeah,
if you're listening to this the day it comes out, then maybe not. But we might already be in a second country.
Because you're recording from the Netherlands. I'm recording from the United States, and we will be visiting. I say we because you and me will both be there. We'll be visiting England, and we will be visiting Dublin, and then I will be visiting the Netherlands as I am taking 3 weeks, and I will be abroad. I will be sauntering abroad. That is me. Oh, it's delightful.
Which broad?
There we go. So I'm very excited. It is my first. I've visited Mexico, which I feel like is the equivalent for you, David, of probably visiting. Yeah, Belgium, where it's like, yeah, that's international, but
like,
it doesn't.
Cool.
but not, especially where I've gone. It's been
especially from Arizona, because if you're going from like Minnesota to Mexico, that's like, oh, okay,
exotic.
You've traveled.
Yeah,
you've gone a long way. But no, you've gone from Arizona, basically, is Mexico north.
Yes, you know? I went to essentially LA, like where it's a commitment. But it's still a drive.
Yeah.
So I'm excited. This is my first time international. I will be about 3 days into fish and chips. I am 100% sure I'm going to hate myself coming back from vacation because I'm going to gain so much pounds from all the delicious food I'm going to be trying and attempting while I'm there. David, we are bringing you this bite-sized, episode. But we are going to be having a couple of preparations here that I need to know. I could think of nobody better on who to help me prep for international travel than you, my friend.
Absolutely.
You are a veteran of the international travel, both in just visiting, both in moving, and everything here in between. So, David, I have my passport. First time I've ever needed or even required and gotten a passport. I've got a couple versions of it. What should I expect when flying international? I think the longest flight I've ever had is 2 connecting flights from Arizona to New York. That's about the longest flight that I've ever had.
You've never flown direct from Phoenix to New York?
I think the closest I've ever gotten, I think...
you did. I dropped you off at the airport, and I'm pretty sure you were flying direct that time to New York.
I think I might...
From LA to New York.
I was going to say, I might have done an Arizona to LA to New York, which actually would be further. So
yeah, that's a 6-hour flight. That's a chunky flight, yeah.
But this is, I think I'm going from Atlanta, if memory serves. I'm going to be taking a connecting flight to Atlanta, one of the international hubs, certainly here in the United States.
Most certainly, yeah.
Directly to England. David, what should I expect for such a
Amsterdam? You'll be flying to Amsterdam.
Or to Amsterdam, thank you.
Yeah, so you'll be flying to Atlanta from Phoenix, I guess. That's a 4-hour flight.
I've done that flight
pretty
before.
Standard. And then from Atlanta to Amsterdam is about 8 hours. 8.5 hours. So it's a fairly chunky flight. I mean, there are much longer flights, but that's the kind of flight where you're packing a neck pillow. You're planning. You're gonna need to try to sleep, maybe to not totally F yourself with jet lag.
Okay, so let me ask you. Let me give you two questions, two main questions that I normally have an answer to, but in this particular case, I need to know if I maybe need to over accommodate. First of all, would you recommend staying up the entire night before so that way I can assure myself that I will sleep either on at least the first flight, if not the second flight?
No. Well, no. I guess you could. It's hard. That is really tough. No, I don't think staying up the entire night. It's challenging to do that. That maybe is a better approach. What a lot of people do is when they're going east, which is more challenging. So going west is easy because it's just like staying up 8 hours later and sleeping in 8 hours later. And yeah, the first couple days are like a little difficult, but you get through it pretty quickly. But so what a lot of people do is so you leave in the early afternoon and you arrive in the morning and what a lot of people do, since that's a day flight on your body clock, at least that's a day flight, you stay up through the flight. So you don't sleep on the plane. And then when you arrive, it's morning and you're tired as heck because it's late night now for you and you want to go to bed. But it's morning where you've arrived. And so you just stay up for that day and you force yourself to wait until that night to sleep. So that's what most people will do. So really just, I mean, going east sucks. There's no easy way around it. I mean, jet lag is it's a mental thing, but it's real.
All right, so it's the second question, David, which is going to be pivotal. We both know, everybody knows, how expensive it can be to either eat, God forbid, in an airport or even worse, on an airplane. How much can I expect to stuff myself silly beforehand so that way I'm not hungry during the flight or in the airport?
Okay.
And secondly, I don't think I'm going to make it on that second flight without getting something to eat. Is airplane food for something that long, is it worth it?
Yeah, honestly, airplane food has changed over the last 20 years. It's better now than it was. And on an 8-hour flight, on an 8-hour international flight, sorry, you will get a meal. I don't know that you're going to like whatever they serve you. You're pickier than I am. But it's better than it used to be. Airplane food used to be worse. I don't know if a lot of people remember that, but it definitely used to be worse. Airport food is perfectly fine. It's just pricier. That's the problem with airport food. Now,
Well,
I think you can afford to buy some snacks at the airport. Don't stuff your bag full of snacks because it's a waste of space. But yeah, maybe get some snacks at the airport. And just when you get the meal on the plane, one or two meals depending on how many you get. The nice thing about a meal that you get on an airplane is usually there's like a hot thing with it's usually some kind of pasta or some kind of mashed potatoes with sausage and gravy. I don't know. So it's not usually that good, but the pasta, maybe pasta, that's pretty common.
which is
And
edible.
if you don't like that, then usually there's at least a bread roll with some butter that they give you that you can just at least fill yourself with. And there's maybe usually either salad or like a dessert maybe as well. But you
You've
find
done that.
something there that you can eat, maybe some crackers,
You've done this
and at
before.
least
Is
fill
it a
yourself up.
menu or do they force you towards whatever
Usually
the,
you
the
get two
plain
or
meal?
three options, and one of
Okay.
them will be vegan and halal or vegetarian at least, and maybe not vegan. Vegan, I think you have to make a special request for, but like vegetarian or kosher, whatever.
And is it thrown in with the ticket price or is it or
Yeah,
is
it's
it
included. The meal will be
oh,
included with your ticket price
that is
on a.
nice.
What airline are you flying again?
Delta.
That's right, Delta. Yeah, Delta on any international flight, especially if it's no any international flight longer than 6 hours, 5 hours, something like that, they will give you at least one meal. So
Okay.
no worries, it's included with your ticket price. Well, I want to go back to the jet lag thing. What
Please.
I would almost recommend you do is just take some melatonin. So even though it's the middle of the day for you when you get on the plane, take some melatonin, like maybe two, like a double dose. This is what I do. Maybe just proceed with caution. Melatonin is a natural hormone or whatever, a natural thingy. It's not dangerous, especially in reasonable quantities. But take two, a double tablet of melatonin, and force yourself to at least sleep somewhat on the plane, even though it's not a normal time for you to be sleeping. And then when you get there, you're at least a little bit rested for you to stay up for that whole day. That's my advice.
So those are the two main ones. I've done a bit of traveling. We've even done the podcast a couple times when I've traveled. My one biggest complaint that and maybe it's as I've gotten older. I don't know if it's just become more prevalent or maybe it's because I've been going on lengthier and lengthier flights. But whenever I've had to sleep on an airplane, one, there is just no comfort to be found. But with that, I will wake up sore. I will like maneuver. I wake up and either I'm messing up my hair because I've got my my whole head resting on the whoever's leaning back on the back of their head space. There's no good spot for it. Have you ever purchased and used a neck pillow, and is it worth it?
Yeah. I travel with one pretty much every time I fly, even if it's a short-ish flight, I usually have a neck pillow with me. So my recommendations for sleeping on a plane are, first of all, the melatonin. If you have
Big
a neck
sponsor of
pillow,
this episode.
if you have a neck pillow, don't get one that's too chunky, because then that just forces your neck forward, and then your head just flops forward anyway, and it doesn't work. So that's pointless. So get one that's like a little softer, that is more like form fits to your neck and head better, and that way it supports you a little bit without, like, the one I have currently I need to replace. The pillow that you get, if you get a pillow on your seat, which you usually do for longer flights, I don't know if you still do as much, depends on the airline and how cheap they are. But if you get a little pillow, don't use it for your head. Use it for your lower back, and it helps make the seat. So once you've put the seat in recline position, it helps give you a little bit of extra recline, and your head will flop less because you're leaning back more. Take off your shoes as well. That's a big
Oh.
one. Like, if you're sleeping on a plane, if you're on a long flight, it's better for your shoes, your feet like swell up a bit. Take the shoes off, and obviously, if you need to go to the bathroom, put the shoes back on. That's disgusting. But take your shoes off. You'll feel less like pressure in your feet. Now, entertainment is another thing. The
I'm
world of
so glad
international
we were
travel.
about to get there.
Yeah, okay,
Yes.
good.
Okay.
The world of international travel has changed a lot, because when I was little, there was, I don't know if you ever experienced this, Phil, but there were TVs on planes even in the
Yeah.
early 2000s. They were
Mm-hmm.
crappy. They were like tiny little LCD TVs, and they
Yes. Yes. Yes.
sucked.
Yes.
And if you were on a window seat and the window was open, or if the guy behind you had his
The
window open,
glare.
the glare was, you just couldn't see anything, especially if it was a nighttime scene. So that sucked. And the other thing is that you would have to look in the little magazine in front of you. Kids, listen up, because this is crazy. You had to look in the little magazine in front of you, and it would say, like, oh, at 2 a.m. on this flight, on this night flight at 2 a.m., they're going to be showing Ice Age. And this is Ice Age 1, guys. Ice Age 1 back in 2000,
The
whatever,
Ice Age. Not even.
2002. Yeah. There's no dawn of anything or melting anything. This is just Ice Age. It would be on, and you'd have to flip to channel 3 at 2 a.m., and that's when Ice Age would be on. So, and you would watch it, and there was no pausing or anything like that. So now we have everything on demand. All the TVs are LED, and Delta has TVs on all their flights now, which is amazing. And everything's on demand. It's great, and they've got all these new movies. It's crazy. So, is it necessary to download stuff? That was going to be my question, really, to you, and I guess a discussion topic for the both of us, Phil. Because when I most recently went to London, I downloaded, and Munich, and then London over the weekend. I've been doing a lot of traveling. I downloaded all the Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power, which I recommended to the listeners last week.
Very nice.
I downloaded all those episodes, and I was watching them, because on KLM, so I flew KLM to London, there's no TVs. So when Delta has TVs on
Whoa.
all their flights, on
Right.
the smaller planes, KLM smaller planes, there's no TVs.
Yeah. Okay.
So
That
you
makes
got
sense.
to have your own. I mean, the flight to London from Amsterdam is 45 minutes, 50 minutes, really. So you don't need anything. But I was just watching what I had downloaded. Like, are you going to be downloading stuff, or are you just going to say, like, hey, let's see what Delta's got for me?
No, I do not trust anybody else's opinion for that. I will allow
They
the
might have
option.
some movies that are not out yet, huh?
I'm sure they will, and I will be glad for that. I'm not going to be downloading anything. No, okay. How do I put this? I will be downloading wide and far. I have a couple of anime things that I need to, which is great. Here's a hint. If ever at all you possibly can find a corner in your life that you could enjoy anime or manga, do that, because the sheer volume that provides you means that you will continuously and forevermore be entertained, because I feel like I've dedicated almost like half a year to watching this anime that I like, One Piece. You probably have heard of it. I know anybody who actually is deep into the culture is saying, oh wow, what a newbie. Yes, I understand all this, but having dedicated like 6 months of straight watch time to it, I'm still only in like season 2, David. I'm only
Wow.
in season 2. It is so much. There is so much volume, and the show isn't even done. I started this out thinking, oh, surely with 11 seasons and honest, I want to say like almost 10,000 episodes, surely this thing's done. It's not. It's not. So that I will have a countless amount of entertainment there. I'm going to be bringing a book, but I will allow myself open interpretation to finding something that is on that TV that I can watch and enjoy,
Yeah.
certainly. And I will be bringing my own headphones. I will be bringing an extra charger, all that stuff. Do not fear, Powwow. I will be prepared. My question to you, though, David, and I'm going to turn this
Mm.
and a return. How does one address this? Have you ever been on a flight? Because I've been on this, and this has happened the past 2 times, and keep forgetting to bring this on the podcast, but I needed to bring it up here in preparation. Maybe you have some sort of tip. How do you deal with having either downloaded or watching? I think it's worse whenever you watch on an airport, or excuse me, on an airplane's TV, because it's much more open. So you're sitting there, you're watching a movie. Let's even go with something as innocent as any other film that you want, and you're watching it, and all of a sudden you're watching the film for the film's purpose, and there's a sex scene.
Mhm.
You're watching Game of Thrones because you're just trying to catch up, and then there's a sex
You're not
scene.
watching this on the airplane screen, I guess.
Well, what happens? Some of those movies that they offer, David, they have an
Yeah,
erroneous sex scene.
a lot of them are edited. I don't know that they do this as much now, but a lot of them are
They
edited
certainly
out.
used to,
I
yes.
There was a stupid movie called Hall Pass with Owen Wilson. I
Oh,
watched that on a
yeah.
plane years ago. Anyway, there were scenes that, like, we were talking about it at dinner some months after that, and with family. This is all years ago, and they were like, "Oh, that scene that where so and such happens," and I was like, "I didn't see that scene wasn't in the movie," and I realized I'd watched a cut version of it for the
A
plane.
clean edited version. Yeah.
Yeah, but
I
not just like something that was released in theaters or something versus what's on the DVD, the uncut version on the DVD. No, I'm pretty sure this was specially cut for
yeah.
the airplane because you got kids sitting a row back. You
Yeah,
know,
absolutely. So what do you do? Do you
now
if
I
I
don't
okay, so
know.
let's assume, because I
Let
think
it happen.
I think if it's on the airplane's TV,
Yeah.
you have to let it happen. I mean, to try and cover it up
Yeah.
so that way you only have the visage
Yeah.
of your eyes with hands covering the screen. I actually would argue that makes you look weirder than
Yes.
than having just let it be and just
Yeah.
maybe giving the guilty look while looking around, being like, guys, I'm sorry. I swear it's for the
No,
art.
no, don't even do that. Just own it. Yeah,
Just don't,
you just
just
want
look
to
straight ahead.
ignore it. Like if
Okay.
they got a problem, that's their problem.
But what if,
But it's worse if you're on an aisle seat.
yes. What if though you own, like, you're watching it on your phone, on your tablet, on your iPad, whatever it could possibly be. What if you're watching it through that device? Do you shield it? Do you
Hmm.
skip? Do you go 10
Yeah,
seconds
maybe you
ahead?
shield it a bit. I don't know.
Because I'll be
Don't
honest,
skip.
for myself, yeah, because I was going to say, for myself, it is funny, isn't it? How we can all go to the movies, and if that happens, nobody's really uncomfortable
Right.
unless you're with mom or dad, or you're with kids, or like your kids specifically. That's the only time that I ever feel uncomfortable watching a sex scene, where I'm like, okay. Otherwise, if I could be in an entire theater full of people, and that doesn't bother me at all, because everybody knows what they signed up for. We're all collectively watching this. We all knew that we're sitting here watching this for the story, for the art, what have you. If I'm there watching on my phone, anybody glances over and sees, as maybe I'm the nosy person, I look ahead 2 rows to the upward to the right, seeing, oh, are they watching Zootopia? Oh, are they watching Cars? Whatever they're watching. But if I look up and see, oh wow, knee deep in Game of Thrones, and we're not in the final season. We're in like some
Yeah,
very
early
bonds
seasons.
are forming. Yes,
Yeah.
I don't judge, but I realize how that could look for others. I am a person who doesn't like to skip through anything really in a movie. I've never really skipped a scene. I've never really fast forwarded through
Yeah.
gory parts.
Too
Very
much
even like shied
integrity.
away. Yeah, it's for the integrity of what the film and what the artist and the powers that
Yeah.
be that made the film wanted you to watch, and so I'm going to do that. However, I am tempted to just like turn over the screen, listen, and hear it. Is that something I
Yeah,
should
I'm
do?
just gonna say, I mean, at your own discretion. Own it. Just watch it. Watch it. Well, okay. It leads me into my final question though. Is
Okay.
what seat are you in? Are you in a window, an aisle, or middle
I'm
seat?
unsure.
God
I'm
forbid.
unsure at this time, but I think knowing myself, if I had my option and my druthers, I would have picked window seat if at all preference was available. If I had to pay extra for
Right.
it, I think I'm at the mercy of the booking. But if I'm
You're
available
you're
to,
you're hoping for a window
mhm.
seat or an aisle seat for sure. No
I
one
think I
likes a
was able
middle
to
seat.
pick
Middle
because
seat is the worst of both worlds.
yeah, I think I was able to pick because I think the way that the finances worked, I was able to. I paid extra for seat selection, and that also gave me an additional. Like I think in order to pay for a premium seat, I got a free luggage
Checked bag, yeah,
upgrade,
checked
a free
bag, yeah,
checked
for
bag,
sure.
but then it also gave me seat selection, so it worked out. It was like, okay, I
Okay. So if you chose window, I think window seats are great because I
great.
like to
That
look out the window.
cream of
I
the
like to
crop.
see all the things that are passing by. I know when I fly from you won't get this unfortunately, but when you fly from like Amsterdam to LA, it's always the shortest route, and the shortest route happens to be very far north. You go over Iceland and Greenland, and the sights are incredible.
Oh
Now
wow.
you won't get that because you're flying from Atlanta to Amsterdam, which is much closer, and you won't go as far north. But
I'm gonna get a
still,
lot of ocean. Maybe I'll see Shamu.
even when you're taking off or approaching, or even flying over the land, if you're over window, if you have a window seat, you can look at everything. And then, I mean, if you do have an aisle seat, that's great. At least you don't have to bother people to get up to pee. But window seat is where it's at for sure. And if you've
All
got
right.
a window seat, then there's fewer people looking at what you're watching on your screen. So you
Absolutely.
you're only shielding it from the person next to you and from the person right behind you through the gap between the seats there. So I mean,
Mhm.
maybe if you just sort of lean across and like block that gap while the sex scene is happening, and then just hope that the guy next to you is a normal person, not a
And realize that
curious
you've been watching this the entire
weirdo.
time, that it's not just you're not the weirdo watching some bounce go wow, just like straight in an airplane. That would be
Right,
crazy.
right. Well, that would be
All
highly
right, final
inappropriate.
final question that we've asked here before, but there's always room for interpretation, change, and everything else. David, the situation arises. The bathroom is a call-in. Which side, the front or the back, do you give the fellow passengers if they don't get out for you?
Oh, okay. That's not what I thought you were gonna ask. If they're, I mean, that doesn't really happen. I would climb over them. I mean, I would step onto the arm. There's no space to like wiggle through the like by their feet. You have to climb over them. There's just not enough space. But I would give them the front, I guess.
You give them the front. They get the
I
full the
guess.
button and the zipper of your pants.
I guess. I don't know. I
There's
mean,
not a
everyone
good
gets
answer.
up. Everyone gets up. I don't
Well,
know.
here's the thing. If you're in the middle of the middle aisle for those international flights, they are bigger planes, so there's an entire middle section that
Yeah.
exists that local or sorry, continental flights don't usually have. So for an intercontinental international flight there, they have an entire middle section. If you're in the middle of that middle section, you're asking an entire half of a row to get up just for you to go to the
No, no,
bathroom.
no, no. If you're in the middle section, you only got to ask one person to get up.
Oh,
It's if you
really?
have a window seat, because most planes are. This is getting real boring, I think, for the listener.
Yeah,
But
sorry
I
about
think
this, guys.
you either you usually you have three on each side and four in the middle if it's a really big plane, or
Oh,
sometimes you
okay.
have three, three, three. So if you're in the middle section, you're never more than one seat from the aisle.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Yeah. Whereas if
Well,
you have a window seat, there's usually two people that you have to ask to get up.
you know what is funny, David, is that I will probably be editing this very episode while sitting on an airplane
Oh,
because,
really?
yeah,
You're gonna edit on the plane?
what? Well, full disclosure, why would I waste time that I can do anything else when, as opposed to the time that I'm have all the free
Fair
time in the
enough.
world? Yeah.
I
So,
mean, the reality is, I'll share this with the listeners as well, is that I will have to work for some days while you're here, and I don't know if you were gonna chill maybe in the bar that I work at and
well,
edit
I will have
there.
following episodes with which to edit during that time.
Yeah, I suppose. I suppose. And we could not leave you without a little slappage.
We are slap happy. We are slappy. That's what we are. Yeah, welcome back to one final part of this particular episode. Before we get to an in-person full episode that we will normally have, and we'll have some novel ideas, especially being abroad, that we will be bringing to you. But that is not this episode. This episode is slapping, and that is because of this week's episode. I will start us out here, David. I don't know if you know or have an affinity for Charlie Puth, but he came out with a new episode, or sorry,
Kind of
a new
do, yeah.
album. I loved his last album, Voice Notes. I hate that I loved it because I like to at least think of myself as something of a contrarian or unique whenever it comes to music taste, but I loved it. And not having fully explored the new album, I am already a fan of one that very well is popular and I'm sure hitting the charts already, but it's new to me. So I'm going to have to go with it. It's called Left and Right by Charlie Puth, featuring Jungkook. I might be saying that incorrect, from BTS, but Jungkook, along with Charlie Puth. Left and Right. Guys, that slaps!
Yeah, My That Slap's also a song this week, and it is, well, Phil, when you're flying across the ocean and you are approaching Amsterdam airport in the plane, that is, I want you to look out the window. Hopefully you have a window seat. I want you to look out the window. It'll be
Okay.
morning,
Oh,
and I want you to gaze at that morning sky and and the beautiful colors.
yes.
Because My That Slaps is called Color Morning. It's spelled the British way, COLOUR,
Okay.
Morning by Night Riots. It's a good song. It slaps. Check it out.
Dare I say this is the first time I've ever heard that wolf have a little bit of an English accent?
I dare say it might have, yes. And you're going to have to put up with my English accent when we're in the UK, because I will definitely be switching up while I speak to all my British friends. So thank you so much for tuning into this abridged episode and catching up with us this week. We'll have some exciting content to come while Phil is in Europe with me.
Woo!
Before we get to that, let's thank a few special people. First of all, the Cass and Crossland and Jake Corlang for the music here on this show. Thank you guys so much. Thank you very much.
And thank you, Tara. No, sorry, that was awful. Wow. Thank you to Tara Armstuds, Josh Hans, and Ryan Ardell for their wonderful contributions to the show. Bravo and claps all around, people, all around. Thank you.
Good show.
Jolly good show.
Yes, and thank you to you, the listener, for tuning in, and you better tune in the next few weeks, because there's definitely going to be some fun content, hopefully very interactive. We're going to be talking to some people, I have no doubt, and it should be very, very good laughs coming your way. So thank you for listening to this episode. Thank you for listening to past episodes and future episodes. We've got a lot of fun stuff to do and say and laugh about. So recommend us to your friends. We're on Instagram at powwow_podcast, and we're just about everywhere you find podcasts: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, just about anywhere except for Pandora, because f*** off, Pandora!
I dare say, I'm all for fish and chips, but to have entirely raw salmon and chips, that bloke over there is going to be getting E. coli. What's that? Oh, he's a bear. Never mind.